Everywhere, GBS.
Good afternoon. This is the Ambassador on GBS TV, where we debunk global diplomacy and geopolitics. It is 1 p.m. here in Nairobi, and I'm Ibrahim Said, standing in for Susan Nganga. We begin with the stories shaping global power, trade, and influence. Now, to our first story. President William Ruto has praised the achievement of the Kenya-led security mission in Haiti, saying it has brought real progress in restoring order to the gang-ravaged nation. Speaking at the United Nations in New York, the president urged the international communities to urgently back a stronger successor mission, warning that fragile gains could be lost without sustained global support. Here are the details.
President William Ruto is urging the international community to rally behind the Kenya-led security mission in Haiti, saying it has delivered real change in a country once crippled by gang violence. At a high-level meeting on Haiti during the United Nations General Assembly in New York, Ruto pointed to what he called transformative gains made under the multinational security support mission.
I must commend the Haitian government for the cooperation they have given to the MSS, without which it would have been a lot more difficult to achieve what has been achieved. I must also single out the Haitian police leadership. They have been immensely useful, and they have worked in collaboration with MSS in the efforts that we have undertaken.
The mission was launched in June last year when 200 Kenyan police officers touched down in Port-au-Prince. Today, it has expanded to nearly 1,000 personnel drawn from 6 countries, with Kenya contributing the majority. Despite being less than half the intended strength of 2,500, the deployment has reclaimed gang-controlled areas, reopened schools,
Habari yako? Mzuri sana.
restored port and airport operation, and significantly reduced cases of kidnapping and extortion.
Since our deployment as MSS on June 25th, 2024, we have been confident that MSS is a mission possible. Henceforth, we have been duty-bound, guided by a singular objective: to help re-establish security and support the Haitian National Police against gang violence and create the conditions necessary for free and fair elections in Haiti. In pursuit of its mandate, the MSS mission has so far disrupted criminal networks and repelled numerous gang attacks.
Ruto said the mission's success is proof of effective partnership between Kenyan officers and the Haitian National Police. He cited the graduation of 750 new recruits and ongoing leadership training for senior officers as evidence that local capacity is being rebuilt.
The police headquarters and the police training center had been overrun by gangs. Today, the police headquarters is safe. The police academy is working. In fact, they have just graduated 750 police officers from that training center, which was initially a home of gangs.
But he also cautioned that these gains could easily be reversed without stronger global backing.
If we don't correct the mistakes of the past, we will most unlikely succeed. If we are sending an additional security team to Haiti, the mandate must be clear. Number one, we must be very clear on the mandate of what it is supposed to achieve. Number two, we must have a predictable resource package. It cannot be what Kenya has gone through, a game of guesswork. You know, voluntary, depending on people's goodwill, depending on when they have time and when they can get some attention. It is my very considered view that we must have the necessary logistical support to be able to make that mission succeed.
The United Nations Security Council is set to vote in the coming days on whether to approve the new mission. For Kenya, the outcome will not only shape Haiti's future, but also reaffirm its growing role in international peace operations.
Now, shifting gears, Airtel Africa's artificial intelligence-powered spam alert service has blocked more than 205 million spam SMS messages across the continent in just 6 months, with Kenya recording the highest volume at 68 million flag tests. The free service, available to all Airtel subscribers, tags suspicious message with spam alert in real time, helping customers avoid scams and removing the need for additional apps. And now, away from that, authorities from the Alliance of Congolese Forces, better known as the AFC/M23, have announced an extension of operation hours at Goma-Rubavu border crossing in eastern Congo, a move aimed at easing movement and boosting trade with neighboring Rwanda. Let's have a look.
The decision, communicated on Thursday, followed weeks of consultations between border officials and local administrators, who said the traders and residents had long expressed frustrations over restrictive crossing times. AFC M23 officials said the new extended hours will give cross-border traders, students, and workers more time to move between Goma in Democratic Republic of Congo and Rubavu in Rwanda. They emphasized that the measures were designed to strengthen cross-border cooperation and address the needs of thousands of residents who depend on daily border movements for livelihoods.
This is good news because the time has been extended. There will no longer be pressure from the closure at 3 p.m. If we want to cross at 3 p.m., we can. If it's 6 p.m., as we like. It's really good. For travelers, it was a bit difficult to travel since there was no airport. But with the extended hours, people can travel without any problems.
The Goma-Rubavu border is one of the busiest crossing points in the region, with thousands of people and goods moving daily between the two cities. However, insecurity in eastern Congo and ongoing tensions between Kinshasa and Kigali have often disrupted cross-border trade and raised concerns over the stability of the region. Local traders associations have repeatedly called for flexible border policies to allow smoother business operations and reduce congestion, especially in the evening hours when traffic is usually heavy.
Movement has increased, which is why we also extended the hours. We came for the people, we must help the people. That's how it is. We cannot stop the movement of more than 2 million people here in Goma. No, it's impossible, because of the principle of good neighborliness that guides the behavior of states. We are eternal neighbors with Rwanda.
C'est-à-dire, nous sommes voisins éternels avec le Rwanda.
Authorities in charge of the crossing said they will monitor the situation closely and evaluate the impact of the extended hours, with the possibility of further adjustments if the measures prove beneficial to both traders and travelers. Molin Rono, GBS News.
Now, in a diplomatic story, French President Emmanuel Macron held a bilateral meeting with Ghana's President John Mahama on September 22, 2025, following the United Nations Summit. The two leaders met to discuss and strengthen diplomatic relations between France and Ghana, building on ongoing cooperation between their countries. This meeting reflects continued engagement at high level between France and African nations to deepen bilateral ties, economic cooperation, and regional security collaboration. President John Mahama has affirmed his commitment to maintaining and strengthening Ghana's relation with France under his leadership, signaling positive prospect for enhanced partnership between the two countries. This bilateral meeting supports ongoing French effort to promote a new partnership approach with African countries based on reciprocity and mutual respect.
Merci beaucoup.
Away from that, conservationists in South Africa are marking World Rhino Day 2025 amid ongoing threats from relentless poaching. South Africa is home to the world's largest population of black and white rhinos, around 2,000 black rhinos and between 12,000 to 13,000 white rhinos, making it a global stronghold for the species. Despite extensive effort, an average of one rhino is still killed daily in South Africa for their horns, a reality that underscores the grave challenge conservationists face. Key reserves, such as the Dinokeng game reserves, strict but confidential security measures, including tracking device on rhinos, night vision equipment, drones, and K9 unit are deployed to safeguard the animal. Poaching is driven largely by organized crime syndicate involved in the illegal rhino horn trade. Conservationist advocate emphasized the critical role of public support, international cooperation, and technological vigilance in turning the tide on poaching.
The last thin green line between the extinction of rhinos. Poaching is always a threat, especially considering that we've got quite a large community on our boundary. But it's not about whether poaching is a threat, it's about how we respond to that threat. And each reserve has got its own unique risk profile and capacities. And what we've been doing at Dinokeng obviously is working so far.
I think in 2014, at the height of the crisis, we were losing, I think, in excess of 1,400 rhinos a year for several years. I think it's quite phenomenal that a decade later, despite intensive pressure like that, we really have managed to.
And after that story, the ambassador will take a short break. We will be right back with more as we debunk global diplomacy and geopolitics.
Hi kids! Welcome to Kids Mind, where we learn, we laugh, and we explore. So kids, are you ready to listen to our today's Bible story? Are you ready to listen?
You're happy and you know, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know, clap your hands.
Samson was a mighty man, a mighty man was he. Samson was a mighty man, a mighty man was he. Samson was a mighty man, a mighty man was he. Between a want or a need, which one is more wise?
Are you a Gen Z? Are you a millennial? Are you together in parenting?
If we do not even handle them correctly, believe you me, things will go out of the basket. And you remember there's this joke that I found somewhere that your parents leaving you and telling you, achaneni na hizo ng'ombe tu hapo nitakuja kuzipeleka hoteli. Major picture that I want to put across is kindly, this generation needs to be brought back to the chungu cha jamii. And that is why I'm saying, you just need to be sat down and be taught. This is the way to go.
To pay a manual bus.
I mean, sit down and and discuss.
What is the manual there?
We're going to be talking about the rock industry and rock culture in Kenya.
When an artist goes into a studio thinking about a hit song, God walks out of the room. So msanii achaguangi hit. Hakuna msanii achaguangi hit. Like even most of the hit songs, some of the songs zinakuanga zile msanii hata apendi kwa hiyo.
Well, that's true. This pressure that is coming in, you need to feed your audience what they want to be fed with, right? What is trending, you need to go as per what is trending. So if you ask a majority of people out here, yes, rock music is there, it is being played, but it's not recognized sana.
Some years back, reggae music used to have a stereotype too. Reggae ilikuwa ya watu wa bangi, ya watu kama mtu alikufa, assuming someone who died in the 90s, someone died in 1995, akifufuka saa hii wale watu wanasikia reggae, he'd be very shocked. My goal is to demystify rock in Africa kwa sababu music is music. Guitar, the rock, all music came from Africa. Muziki haina kabila. How do I put muziki haina kabila? In fact, they'd be shocked. The rock music we know as of now came from black people. Wakamba ndio rockstar Kenya, high Kambas. You know the way they play the guitar is just an expression. Yeah, there's Kikuyu gospel hard rock, a guy called Kanyaki for example. So it's very misunderstood. Watu wanasema ni ya madevo, ni ya wazungu.
Tokyo World Marathon. Bro, hapa sasa ndio kuna maneno. Una feel nini ni mbaya na Manyala? Bro anadefeatiwa man. Siku hizi Manyala sio Manyala bana.
Hakuna kitu Manchester inawafanyia sasa. Mwekezaji kama vile last time niliwaambia, Kenya sinadi kichwa. Kenya sinadi over 1.5. Kenya sinadi first team to score.
I have been fencing for the last 1.5 years now. Fencing haina age. You can start as early at a very young age. And you can also play at a very old age.
Kuna pale represent Kenya ni
game yenye tulienda last ilikuwa junior championship ilikuwa Angola.
Fencing is a sword sport, but we don't call it a sword, we call it a blade.
Ili kujua mengi, jiunge nami Omala Brian kwenye GBS TV Sports Sugu Show. This is where passion meets the game.
Everywhere, GBS.
Now, welcome back to the Ambassador. France has formally backed the recognition of a Palestinian state. President Emmanuel Macron made the declaration during his speech at the United Nations General Assembly. The move has drawn immediate criticism from Israel, which describes it as a betrayal. Let's have a look. French President Emmanuel Macron has publicly endorsed the recognition of a Palestinian state, signaling a shift in France's diplomatic posture on the Middle East.
C'est pourquoi, fidèle à l'engagement historique de mon pays au Proche-Orient, pour la paix entre le peuple israélien et le peuple palestinien, je déclare que la France reconnaît aujourd'hui l'État de Palestine.
The Israeli response was swift and pointed. A senior envoy condemned the statement as a betrayal and unacceptable, warning that it undermines effort to contain extremism and threatens the credibility of peace negotiation.
But to President Macron and other leaders, I would say we are disappointed. On October 8th, you stood with Israel. You spoke about the hostages. Today you're moving on. You're trying to leave the hostages behind. We will not forget them. This war will not end with hostages still in Gaza.
France now joins a growing bloc including Canada, Australia and United Kingdom calling for formal recognition of Palestinian statehood. Macron's remarks were followed by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, who told the assembly that the Palestinians are facing occupation, statelessness and genocide.
The state of Israel, casting and ushering the Palestinians into a decades-long wilderness of statelessness, characterized by decades of occupation and now genocide. I'd like to congratulate the President of France, President Macron, for today announcing a very bold decision to support the long overdue creation and the recognition of the sovereign state of Palestine.
Macron's remarks are expected to shape upcoming debates at the UN and within the European Union, where calls for coordinated actions are gaining momentum. Reporting for GBS. Shifting gears, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Welcome back. Sorry for that technical glitch. And now, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said that the Sustainable Development Goals follows the increasing returns. He stated this as the SDG event moment and keep the promises. Guterres said that all this being done must take a peace a priority. In 2024, a global military spending was 13 times official development assistance, that is equivalent to the entire GDP of the African continent, a statement which was echoed by the President of the General Assembly.
We made some progress. Child mortality has been halved compared to the start of the millennium.
Annalena Baerbock, President of the General Assembly, has stated that the UN has made some progress on several issues including child mortality, which has been halved compared to the start of the millennium. Clean energy now generates more than 40% of the world's electricity, part of an urgently needed shift of renewables.
Nearly 1 billion people have gained access to safe drinking waters since 2015. Social protection now reaches over half of humanity, up from less than 43% a decade ago. Only 35% of the SDGs are on track. Nearly half, 47%, are seeing insufficient progress. 18% have gone into even reverse. The financial picture is equally stark. At a moment of rising need, net official development assistance fell by 7.1% last year.
Speaking also at the event, Queen Matilda of Belgium, SDG advocate, said that the world cannot afford to be defeatist. It is all the more crucial at a critical time like this to take responsibility to pool our efforts to realize the goals and values signed up to in 2015.
We cannot afford to be defeatist. It is all the more crucial at a critical time like this to take responsibility, to pool our efforts so as to realize the goals and values we signed up to in 2015.
The SDG moment includes an interactive discussion with the world's leaders from Africa, Asia and Pacific, Europe, Latin America and the Caribbean and small island developing states to reflect on the progress made on the SDGs and share their strategic insights on what must be achieved to reach the 2030 agenda milestone. Davis Karani for GBS News.
Away from that, the White House has confirmed that President Donald Trump's Venezuela policy remains unchanged despite received letter from Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro seeking direct dialogue. The letter, dated September 6, 2025, proposed direct and frank talk between Maduro and Trump's special envoy Richard Grenell, rejecting allegations that Venezuela is involved in drug trafficking, which Maduro calls completely unfounded and fake news. Maduro emphasized Venezuela's aggressiveness effort against drug smuggling and requested improved relations with the U.S. However, the White House dismissed Maduro's letter as full of lies and stated there are no changes to the current U.S. stance or policy towards Venezuela.
Trump avoid saying whether he has read it. Did he receive it?
We have seen this letter. Frankly, I think there were a lot of lies that were repeated by Maduro in that letter, and the administration's position on Venezuela has not changed. We view the Maduro regime as illegitimate, and the president has clearly shown that he's willing to use any and all means necessary to stop the illegal trafficking of deadly drugs from the Venezuelan regime.
Still on US, the US entertainment giant Disney has announced that Jimmy Kimmel Live will be back on air just 6 days after production was suspended. The late-night show was pulled following threats by the Federal Communications Commission chairman over comments Kimmel made about the alleged kill of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Disney, which owns ABC, said the suspension was meant to avoid inflaming tension during what it called an emotional moment for the country. The network now says the show will resume on Tuesday.
Free speech is under attack. What do we do?
Reaction to Jimmy Kimmel's suspension reflected the deep political division within the society being held by the majority of Republicans, including President Trump.
Jimmy Kimmel was fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else, and he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk.
And Hamas as an infringement of freedom of speech by Democrats.
Censorship and what we're seeing from the federal government only serves to further divide us and make us less safe.
But a threat by the Federal Communications Commission, or FCC, to suspend network licenses was the last straw for at least one Republican lawmaker.
And the FCC was wrong to weigh in, and I'll fight any attempt by the government to get involved with speech.
The Walt Disney Company says the Jimmy Kimmel Show will return to the ABC network this week, issuing a statement explaining that the show was suspended to avoid inflaming what it described as a tense situation at an emotional moment for our country. Continuing, we have spent the last day having thoughtful conversation with Jimmy, and after these conversations, we reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday. The threat to one show now appears to be over, but those concerned about freedom of speech have been reminded of how fragile the concept is in this America. Reporting for GBS TV, I'm Paul M. Mine.
And away from that story, it was a night to remember in Paris as football's biggest star gathered for the most prestigious individual award in the sports. And this year, the Ballon d'Or has new and truly deserving winner. After years of highs and lows, Paris Saint-Germain's Ousmane Dembele has reached the pinnacle of the world football. Here is more on that story.
Oh my God, they're getting crazy here. Getting crazy.
In a glittering night in Paris, PSG forward Ousmane Dembele was crowned the 2025 Ballon d'Or winner. A moment of triumph after years of setbacks and struggle.
Je comptais pas pleurer. Je voulais rester fort.
In my career, I've had a lot of difficult moments and some good ones too. But there are trials in life that you have to overcome, and there you have it. I've overcome them.
Overcome with emotion, Dembele thanked his family, whose unwavering support carried him through the toughest chapters of his journey.
En remerciant tout le monde, etc. Mais voilà, dès que j'ai commencé à parler de ma famille, ceux qui sont là depuis le début, bah voilà, les émotions ils sont montées et ça a lâché un peu. C'est exceptionnel d'entendre toutes ces légendes du football français. Voilà, qu'ils ont pu remporter ce trophée, le dernier en date, Karim Benzema, ou sinon Zinedine Zidane, la grande légende. Voilà, c'est exceptionnel de faire partie de cette liste, mais je pense qu'il va y avoir encore beaucoup d'autres Français qui vont faire partie de cette liste-là. En tout cas, je leur souhaite, et que vraiment que la liste s'agrandisse encore plus.
Once plagued with injuries and doubts, Dembele answered every critic with a phenomenal season, leading PSG to a historic treble, winning Ligue 1, Coupe de France, and the UEFA Champions League. His electric pace, creativity, and game-changing moments lit up stadiums across Europe and pushed his team to the very top. Now at 28, Dembele joins a legendary line of French Ballon d'Or winners
from Michel Platini, Zinedine Zidane to Karim Benzema. This award is more than just a trophy. It's a story of resilience, redemption, and the rise of a true footballing great. Elvis Muyodi, GBS News.
And that's it for this afternoon's edition of The Ambassador, where we debunk global diplomacy and geopolitics. We'll keep tracking the stories that matter, and we will be back with more clarity, context, and consequence. I'm Ibrahim Said. Until next time, have a good day.
Everywhere, GBS.